Oops, I have you on huge screen there.
Hi, it's Jerry Roberts, back with another edition of Newsmakers, and it is Wednesday, January 6th. We are joined today by Councilmember Kristen Sneddon. Happy New Year. Thanks for being with us.
Happy New
Um,
Year.
it's a little strange. I mean, there's such big national things going on. Obviously, the Democrats won those two Senate races in Georgia, and I've been going in and out on the kind of kabuki theater in the US Senate about the electoral votes. But it all just reminded me of your kind of political origin story, which is you had never really thought about running for office until you participated, I think, in a scientists against Trump or scientists for scientists or something, whatever it was.
March for Science.
Yeah, in early 2017. So what do you think? Your work here is done now, huh? Trump's gone. He's lost the House and the Senate. Not bad, not bad, council member.
I have to say that's a bright spot of today. That news this morning. I don't think another day of difficulty would be hard to take. But yeah, I mean, I really believe in local politics and doing what you can where you are at home. And then we've seen in Georgia this huge organization, and not just grassroots, but nationally, everybody coming behind. Well, not everybody, but many people coming behind and supporting what's happening in Georgia. And I think for me, it's really realizing that there is no us or them or this state or this city or this district, but that we're all in this together. And especially in pandemic, it's a really big reminder of how much I don't know how damaging politics can be, really, in the divisions, and how we really need to support each other and come together. But yeah, I was not a politician, and I hope I'm not a politician.
Well, you got 4 years under your belt anyway, so
Yeah.
presumably your skin is a little thicker than it was when you started. But let me ask you first: are you running for re-election this year in District 4?
Yes, I am, and I'm happy you asked. I've always intended to. There's more work to do. There's long-term visioning and processes that still need to be happening, and I think I bring a unique voice to council that doesn't overrun it, but I think is an important balancing part of all of that. So yeah, I'm running.
And what do you think that voice is, and why do you think it deserves re-election?
Well, I think there are a few things. I mean, something that goes really under the radar and doesn't get reported on a lot, I think, because it's not visible to everyone all the time. But I work really hard on our regional water issues, water security, chairing the sea level rise committee, sustainability, bringing about a new department in sustainability and resilience, really focusing on wildfire planning. There's a lot in the sort of sustainability, resilience, water, energy, environmental front that I think I have a particular passion for. I mean, that is what brought me to office. It's what I think I'm here for, really. It's what I teach. It's this is maybe personal, but reading one of my son's college application essays, and I didn't really see how he saw me. And what he described is that my whole life, and he was talking about, the influence of his family, that I've climate change, these issues of environmental policies and science have been since I was in elementary school. Whatever I can do, I work that into what I'm doing. So everywhere, in teaching, when I was on the Peabody board, when I'm everywhere I am. So that's what I think I bring. I mean, I think I bring other things too. Definitely. I think I do a pretty good job speaking for District 4.
Yeah, remind us what District 4, what neighborhoods are included.
Well, it's the Riviera. It's also Eucalyptus Hill, Coast Village Road, which is really a shining example of resilience. I mean, when you really look at that and think about the day that I was sworn in to office was the day of the debris flow, and Coast Village was hit so hard, and really came back. And even now is still a really good example of what we can do. And people forget that Coast Village Road is part of the city, and it's a really important part. It also includes parts of East Beach area, yeah, and San Roque. I mean, half of San Roque. That's a big family district. So, you have a lot of like sort of tight, dense districts, and I think of District 4 as sort of everything left.
Sorry, I dropped the notes.
Okay.
Um, and do you hear what do you hear about any opponents? Anybody running against you yet that you're aware of?
I hear rumbles, but I'm really focused on what we need to do right now. And rumor I've heard, but nothing substantive yet.
A lot of talk about Barrett Reed of the Planning Commission running. You have any confirmation on that?
It's a rumor I've heard, but I haven't I haven't heard that myself. I would hope that anybody who is planning on running would it's an invitation to talk to me. I'd love to talk to them. I mean, not about the race itself, but I mean, maybe there are ways that we can work together and work towards goals. I don't know. But so far to me, it's rumor. I don't have any confirmation firsthand about anybody else running.
Yeah, and I heard from some people that both speculated and also encouraged the idea that you were going to run for mayor. Why aren't you running for mayor?
You know, maybe in my future, I have work to do now as a council member representing District 4. And I also really love my work at City College. I mean, that teaching and being a part of the next generation of learners in environmental geology and in geology. I'm not ready to entertain giving that up. I've wanted that for a long time, and I really love that work. And it's just not my time to consider that, really. I think far in the future. I mean, the next mayor's term is a 5-year term. After that, we'll see how the world is and where we are. But I love serving on city council. It's a really I didn't know what to expect. Really,
not all the time. You don't.
Well, all the time, even when it's really difficult, it's a privilege, and I that's not lost on me. I really appreciate the confidence that people have put in me, and I take it really seriously. So that part I love.
All right, let's talk about some of the things going on with the city. And we've had this terrible outbreak of shootings. Young people, 2 people killed on the east side, and others shooting on the west side. What's going on? And what can the council do to address any of this?
We really need to come together on this. I have to start by saying that I am really shaken and heartbroken. These are young people who are, one was a junior in high school, and I have a high school student. And you know what he said, that this group of high schoolers have been hit so hard on so many levels. They've lost a lot of young lives to debris flow, and now there's suicides, and now drive-by shooting, or not drive-by, but it's we don't have this here, and it's really a big signal of a deeper issue with our youth right now, and we need to all come together. It's not just going to be a police issue or a district issue or mental health issue. This is one of those times when we all need to be supporting each other. Yeah.
What do you think the deeper issue is?
I mean, COVID. We have that. We have the growing disparity between the haves and have-nots. We have a lot of openings for, I can't really speak on an ongoing investigation, but there's speculation I've seen in the press that this is gang related. And, you get those openings for gang activity being attractive when there aren't other options. When you as a young person are in existential crisis, you see COVID, you see the economy, you see people crowded together in living conditions, and then you have drug use increasing, and they're not in school, and these are kind of dark times. And
And what does it look like when you say we all need to come together? What is that? How does that manifest?
um, well, I think we need to have actual conversations about how to address this together, not just funding, and not just as a, a presentation to council. I think we need a subcommittee, a task force, and we need to be working together on this with urgency. I mean, this is shooting coming into our community like this on the street with young people is this is a huge red flag, and it comes in the midst of so much other turmoil. I'm not sure what it looks like, but I think we can't get into divisions right now about how to handle it. We need to come together.
Well, stipulating that federal law and the Second Amendment govern a lot about sale and possession of weapons and ammunition. Do you think the city ought to look at ways for its own gun safety legislation?
I've always thought so. Yeah. I really have applauded the work of Moms Demand Action, and I think there's a lot that we can do locally in what we do to limit. But again, I don't know the details of this particular investigation at this time, and maybe it isn't our local people who are shooting, and so we need to look at the real root causes, and it's really early yet. I think this is there's also some speculation that it's tied to methamphetamine use, and we've seen the uptick in crime. We've been seeing that happening with the economic downturn first, and then COVID, and then now you have people for such a prolonged time not in school, and
Yeah.
it's all coming together.
Let's talk about the pandemic a little bit, because we obviously we see these horrible numbers now with 0% availability of our ICU beds and more deaths each day. And it really goes to a large extent, I think, to this question of education versus enforcement. And the city, the county have all, said, well, we're going to educate people. We're not going to try to crack down. And you had that famous quote with, well, if somebody was walking around without pants, the police would cite them. So why not cite somebody without a mask? Does the city need to take a much more aggressive approach to this, to enforcing a kind of sensible pandemic things we can do?
I would like to see that. I mean, I don't even know if a citation is what's necessary, but a presence and asking people. I think at the time, we have such an excellent police force, and they've been through a lot recently, and I think they weren't maybe that anxious to be going up to people and enforcing masks when there was so much in the conversation about over enforcement in some areas or under enforcement, and I think that they sensed that we as a council weren't unified in our direction on that. And so I just want to say I really don't fault the police for not enforcing. It's really our lack of direction on that.
Do you think the council is unified on that issue now?
I really don't know. I mean, I feel, and this is just anecdotal, I feel like I see more people without masks right now than I saw before, and I don't know what that is about. I think maybe it's just time wearing on, and the truth is we don't have enough officers to be doing all that needs to be done right now. I mean, that is part of the issue that we have. But I'll say I have a friend who's a nurse at Cottage, and a lot of her perspectives help inform me about what's really happening there, and the stress and the strain of the healthcare workers. And when there was the discussion about reopening or pushing to reopen, and in conversation with her, I hear that they knew they were going to run out of beds, and they're converting divisions that aren't ICU areas overnight to be COVID beds, and they're not trained for that, and they're working 18-hour shifts, and they're not with their families, and I hear it so loud and clear, like we have to again be all in this together. We have to get away from this idea that it's either businesses or freedom with no mask, or healthcare workers, or the hospital system in this area or that area. We're all interconnected, and this, I think, shows that more than anything.
Well, don't
So
you think that the city from the start kind of sent a mixed signal? I mean,
yes.
I'm remembering that our first great debate was about whether we should allow cruise ships or not. I mean, weren't we slow off the mark?
I think so, and I think I mean, I'll say I am definitely more conservative in that view. I mean, I early on didn't think we should have cruise ships. Early on, thought we should enforce masks. I don't fault anybody for what their perspectives are. I think we're all trying to do the right thing, and we're all coming from a good place of trying to support the entire community. But I have felt this for a long time, that the simple act of wearing a mask could save so many lives, and we're at capacity in our hospitals, and that affects everyone. If I'm telling my kids, like, don't break a bone right now, I'm not taking you to the hospital, like, we'll just set it at home if we have to. Like, it's all of us, and it's yeah, we should be enforcing, encouraging, requiring the masks. It's so simple. I mean, now that we're all doing it, I think we've realized it's so simple. It's
All
really
right,
not
if he breaks a bone, here's a free consumer tip for you.
Oh, good. Okay.
Narcotic urgent care,
Okay.
the new one out in Goleta. I slammed a gate on my finger. Man, they were great.
Oh, good to know.
Back to what we're saying.
All right, they can break a bone for now.
Let's talk about housing a little bit, because it seems to me you have probably the most nuanced approach to housing in Santa Barbara on the council.
It's very kind of you, Jerry. That's not the usual description I get, but thank you.
It may not necessarily be a good thing. Wait till you see where I'm going with it. But,
okay. Okay, I'll brace myself.
Well, so we hear this phrase, housing crisis, housing. Does Santa Barbara have a housing crisis? And if so, how do you define that crisis?
Yes, we have a housing crisis. We do not have enough housing for the people who work here. We don't have enough housing for our first responders, our teachers. We have a housing crisis. And what we don't have enough of is entry level ownership opportunities, and we don't have enough mid-income workforce housing. We don't. And when you say nuanced, I think some people will say that I'm anti-housing, and I don't understand that at all. I'm very pro-housing, and I'm very pro-housing.
It's because I think you really stress the affordability piece of it. Others are, kind of more focused on density. And I think some people say, well, your hostility to density, your hostility to housing is kind of dressed up, in this concern about affordability. But, obviously the developers say it doesn't pencil out.
And I think too, this is something I have a lot of thoughts on. I'm not opposed to density. I think where we put it is what matters. There are a lot of places on upper state and on the lower hillside that you could put in high density development and people wouldn't even notice. And when we were talking about up near La Cumbre Plaza or in different pockets in the city, but what we're trying to do is make magic. We're trying to take the most expensive real estate we have and densify it and think that it's going to somehow be affordable. And it has not penciled out that way. And I'm not anti-development. I would love to see a development that doesn't block people's mountain views. And I'm not talking about District 4 people's mountain views. I'm talking about people who live downtown, people who are in the lower parts of the city. That mountain view is, to me, mental health relief. And I don't say that lightly. I think a view of the sky, a view of the mountains, a view of nature is what Santa Barbara is. And I don't think anybody should be blocking that. But I do think that if we're looking at where there are swales and peaks, and if we're putting density in the right places, we could build a lot of units that wouldn't detract from other people's experience. And I do mean in lower income areas. I don't like bungalows or areas that have small communal yard, and then you have a big development next to it that's blocking the sun, blocking the views of the sky. I just I feel it's worth protecting, but I don't think it's impossible. I just think we just keep hammering it in the same place. It's not going to happen. In my view, that affordable housing is not going to happen downtown along State Street. It can happen in a lot of places, but it's not going to happen there. I just don't see it penciling out either. I can see
Well, and
that.
then you have the state is, constantly ramming new regulations on local government. You okay? Everything all right?
Yes, I think that was a cat or a dog
Yeah.
moving my background. You can't see what's behind the Oz curtain, Jerry. It's chaos back there.
So the state, anyway, we just got the county got the new regional housing needs allocation, the RENA numbers about
Impossible numbers. They're
8,000.
impossible.
We have to permit 8,000 in the next, 8 years or something, which would mean the city of Santa Barbara about 4,000. Is that realistic?
No, it's not. It's like a balloon mortgage or something. It's like you couldn't make the payment now, so now you're going to make the payment bigger later. I mean, we can zone for it and we can allow for it. I actually think ADUs are a big hope for that a lot of infill in areas and allowing for aging in place and for aging population as well, and for the boomerang generation. And there's a lot with ADUs. And we need to count those numbers up. Like we have enough zoning for these numbers. I just think we're putting our focus on incentives in places where it's not going to pencil out, and hasn't. I mean, we just haven't seen a development downtown meeting those numbers. But 8,000, I mean, how is that even
So if 4,000
possible?
is not realistic, what do you think a realistic number is?
2,000
About
realistically.
About
Yeah.
half of what the state is demanding. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, in the time period that they're talking about, I mean, we need more housing than that, but in the time period that they're talking about, we can set it as a goal and we can try, but if it just becomes so impossible, no city right now can meet that I can think of.
Let me ask you about one specific development, the 7-Eleven Milpas, North Milpas thing. You were the only member of the council who voted against this special development agreement for that. And it, we granted the height, or the city, higher heights, density, and so on and so forth. But you didn't feel it was worth doing that. Why not?
I think that we give our bargaining away too quickly and too easily. I think we could have bargained for more. I think we should have bargained for more. You look at that area there, and it's going to have an impact. It's going to cause congestion in that area, and again, those mountain views from the junior high. And I thought we could have bargained for more affordability. And what I was really holding out for was agreements that those units would go to teachers or police or fire, first responders as the starter locations. And that's how it was pitched to me originally. And I was actually all for it when it was originally pitched to me. And I encouraged the conversations to move that forward. So I just wanted to hold out for that. I thought we could have held out for that a little longer.
More units too. I think it was 16 out of 82 or something.
Yeah.
So you thought
Yeah.
we should get more units, the city should get more units out there.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna go there, let's go there. I mean, that's the units off Carrillo by the freeway. I mean, once that was not going to be tiny homes, and once we decided to go to a full development there, go for it. Make it real. Make it count and make a difference. I mean, it's. But I just felt like we were premature. I mean, I think everybody was doing what they believed. Again, it's not against really our thoughts on that. I like to bargain a little harder, and I think the city is we have a lot that we can still bargain with, and I think we need to be doing that.
Another piece of the whole complex housing debate, of course, is the community development department, and you have not been shy about your views on that, about the previous leadership of community development. Um, have you seen any changes since the departure of George Buell? Do you see any way that the department will begin to, address some of the criticisms that have been made in who knows how many consultant reports by now?
Yes, I mean, I don't think you're going to turn that ship around overnight, but Rebecca Bjork is fabulous. I mean, she is a systems-oriented person. She is organized. She isn't such a part of that department that she can't see the personalities and what might need to happen, but she's worked with the department a lot through her role in public works, and she's interim, so sometimes that's what you need is interim person to come in and really sort of reassess and make those changes. And I think she's fabulous, but I don't think it will really happen until we get our permanent community development director, and a lot is going to depend on that.
What's the status of that?
Well, it is. Let's see. I believe their interviews have happened, but we don't know yet. Council doesn't know yet who the final candidate is or are.
Well, we got a lot of. I mean, George Buell in community development, Lori Lunow, the police chief, leaving, Eric Nichols, Bob Samario, the budget guy. I mean, there's a lot of people at the top of the bureaucracy who are not here, who are either leaving or have left, and they're a vacant position. Should we be concerned about that?
Yes. I mean, this is a pivotal moment. We need to be concerned in as much as that we pay very close attention, that we have very high expectations for what is going to come in and fill those positions. I mean, this is the decisions made right now and in those positions are going to affect the city for a long time to come. And I just want to say that in the interim time, Paul has done a fabulous job of running the city. Paul Casey, yes, thank you. There are a lot of moving parts, and we've had vacancies. We have all of this happening, and with all that, we still need to keep the water on and the electricity going, and we still need to have the city be run, and he's doing that. But these hiring decisions are going to really matter, and this is not a time to let up. This is a time to really make it known how much we're paying attention and how much we care about these positions.
So you're very pleased with the city administrator right now.
I am pleased that I don't worry that the functions of the city are going to happen. I am pleased that there's movement in my big complaint was the community development department, and though it took a while, I'm pleased that that's being taken seriously and is moving forward. I'm pleased that the position for the economic development director was created. I think we have high expectations and high hopes for this economic development plan, which
what do you see as the future of downtown and State Street? What that looks like in 30 words or less.
I will try. The last time I was on your show, Jerry, you asked me a word for handling State Street and the situation right now, and I said nimble. I mean, it was right at the beginning, mm-hmm. And I would say now we're moving out of that nimble phase. I mean, we were really tried to be responsive and to meet needs of the business community. And now that this has gone on, and I felt this way before COVID, I think we really need to invest in a long range downtown specific master plan. I mean, you've got Nordstrom building, you've got the Ortega building or Macy's building, you have De La Guerra Plaza, Library Plaza, you have this length of State Street, and we don't have a plan that ties that all together. And you add to that we want, and I really want, adaptive reuse of housing on State Street. I don't necessarily want tear downs and new developments, but there's so many cool buildings and spaces in there that could be repurposed for housing. So, I'm a believer in having a big table and a lot of input and really bringing that conversation in. We need to be engaging with our arts community, our business community, property owners, people who live down there, and our locals. Our locals don't feel ownership of State Street, and they need to.
Well, a
So
lot of what's happened obviously has been very ad hoc. The sudden closing of to traffic and the parklets, and now we got these electric bike stations. I mean, isn't there a danger that it's going to get kind of junked up because of little short-term
yes.
steps?
Yes, and there's things that we've done in the interim become these like sort of permanent postmarks for what we plan around in the future, and we can't have that. We have to be much more long-term thinking about what we need there. And when I ran, I talked about closing State Street. People have been talking about closing State Street for a long time, and then the ability to move quickly on that happened because we were in this interim phase, but we can't stay in this interim phase of just.
So what are you going to do to make that happen?
Well, I'm going to do what I've been doing, pushing really hard that we need to invest in a downtown specific master plan.
Yeah,
It's
vote for that.
I'm not sure if I do yet, but I'm gonna just keep trying. I've been trying for a couple years. It's one of the things that, I mean, as you know, when I came into office, it wasn't, we were in an economic downturn. We had vacancies, and now we have more vacancies. And it's been so exciting when we could go downtown with the parklets and the lights and people in the street.
Well, tell us which of your colleagues think this is a bad idea.
I can't speak for my colleagues, but if you think this is a good idea, I would encourage you to support when it comes forward. And we have our State Street Subcommittee. That was a committee that it was one I pitched and pushed for. Yeah, and I and Oscar Gutierrez, and I it was a committee that I'd pushed for a couple of years, and this isn't really the iteration that I had imagined. I had imagined 15 or so members from the community, from ABR, HLC, property owners, business leaders, arts members, and to really vision what we want to see for the long term. And the State Street Subcommittee right now is sort of a short-term interim look, and I really hope that out of that comes a recommendation that we need to invest in this long-term vision. I mean, we need it. We need it, and yeah.
All right, last question.
Time goes so fast.
I know. Mayor Cathy Murillo is running for re-election as well. How would you assess the way she's done in the 4 years that you have worked together with her? And are you going to endorse her re-election?
I'm not sure I'm endorsing in this election, partly because I'm running also. And an assessment, I will say these last 3 years have been very difficult, starting with debris flow and all the way through to COVID. And I think it has challenged each of us in so many ways. And
scale of 1 to 5, how's she done?
I really hate grading, Jerry. I like all my students to wind up with an A.
So you're not endorsing her, and are you likely to endorse another candidate?
I don't. I'm likely to. Here's what I'll say. with the future, what we need the next term is a 5-year term. We need to pivot away from being just reactive to what's happening to us, and we need to be proactive regionally. We need to take that leadership to have ideas from other places, other cities, and be bringing that together. We need leadership that invites all of the voices in and really can tailor those together and move ideas forward. And that may be Cathy, and it may be somebody else. I don't know, but I'm
Do you
very
think that's a good
focused.
description of her style of leadership?
um I think that's an area of growth, and I think she has the capacity to pivot. um and she has so many deep ties within the community, and I think I would encourage Cathy to really um bring it all together and be working regionally. And she ran for assembly. Maybe in those ideas, she's come up with ideas on that too. But we can't have just a reactive next 5 years. We have to be ready for reopening. We have to have a plan. We have to be able to like really hit the ground and move forward. And like right now, we need to be doing everything to get those vaccines. I mean, I just want to use everything in our power. If we're writing letters, the letters I want to write are, we need our vaccines now, we need them distributed, and we need funding.
All right. Well, the council is obviously pretty balkanized, but how much how much do you attribute that to the fact that we're all on Zoom and you're not together in the same room, and how much do you attribute her
Oh, a lot.
inability to bring people together and reach consensus?
Um, Zoom is really difficult on all of us. I mean, there just aren't those moments for camaraderie. They have to be contrived and they have to be individualized. There isn't, a group just chatting around, the water cooler about the weather. I mean, we just don't have that now. It's all very isolated. I do think that bringing people together requires really concerted outreach effort. I do see that Cathy is trying, and it's very difficult with Zoom. I mean, one of the things I miss the most is public comment. I really, really miss seeing people's faces, reading the room, getting a sense of how an issue might pivot or be influenced, and we miss a lot by not being able to converse in that way. I mean,
Okay. All right.
yeah.
Santa Barbara Councilmember Kristen Sneddon, thank you so much for being with us, taking the time. You heard it here first. He's running for reelection, and we will be hearing more about that, and we'll be hearing more about the issues of the city. Thanks so much for your time.
Happy New Year, Jerry.
Happy New Year.